That's its job. It's just to focus you in physical reality. Ego, in a sense, is like the diving mask that gives you the ability to have a clear view underwater, so that things are not too murky, so that you can see, sort of, at least to some degree, what is ahead of you, where you are going. It brings things of the physical reality into focus so that you can concentrate on them, so you can focus on them, so you can have a physical reality experience. It creates the idea and reinforces the idea of the belief systems that are part and parcel of the template of your consciousness, of your personality structure that you have created, reinforces them so that those beliefs can be experienced as fully as possible. That's why every single belief is self-reinforcing. Because the ego's job is to add energy to it, add focus to that belief, to make it seem as if no other belief is possible, in order for you to focus on the belief strongly enough to actually have the physicalized manifestation and the experience that goes hand in hand with that particular belief you are holding to be true at any given moment. So the ego's job is to amplify those beliefs, to keep you focused in physical reality, to keep you focused in that experience. But when there is a degree of forgetting that exists to the extent that it has in your reality, very often, because of that sense of disconnection, because of that experience of disconnection, not that you're ever really disconnected, because you cannot be, but you can create the experience of disconnection to such a degree that the physical personality structure, the ego structure, can forget that it's not actually the one in charge, can forget that it has a helpmate in the template reality called the higher mind, can forget that it is not doing this alone. And in suddenly finding itself in the experience of being alone, it starts to build up the idea of fear. It starts to reinforce belief systems in a way that perpetuates its existence beyond the necessary level that it is actually required to generate for its continued existence. It starts to think that if it is all there is, then it's in charge of everything. The burden and the weight of the world is on its shoulders. The responsibility for everything that happens in your physical reality is up to the ego structure, and it starts to take on that job when it is not built for that job. It starts to burden itself, stress itself. And in that way, it starts to break down. It starts to do wildly incongruous, wildly irrational things to strengthen itself, and strengthen itself under the feeling that it is crumbling under the weight. And by constantly reinforcing and strengthening itself in a way it was not designed to do, it can become extremely dense, extremely crystallized, and very difficult then to allow to expand back out into its more relaxed state, its more relaxed focus. And when it gets that concentrated, the amount of energy the ego puts into belief systems that are generally fear-based are going to be almost overwhelming. Because it is taking on this burden from a perspective of fear, most of its energy, most of its reinforcement is going to be fear-based. It's going to choose those things that are based on survival mode. It's going to reinforce itself with the idea that it must survive at all costs at this concentrated level. Otherwise, your life will end. It will be annihilated. The personality will dissolve. So the ego structure does everything it can to take on this tremendous burden. Let's all give the poor little ego a break before the ego breaks down. Therefore, in this day and age, even in that concentration of ego physical personality structure, even in that degree of density, look, you have still felt that little seed, that little urge that calls you back to the higher self, back to that frequency, back to the light. Even from that deep degree of murky darkness, you still were capable of sensing somewhere that there must be some kind of higher vibration that calls to you, that tugs at you, that pulls at your heart, that allows you to feel, to know there is some level of reality wherein the ego is free, the personality is free to be what it was designed originally to be, and that there is no need for the stress and strife and struggle and dire consequences and dire experiences that the ego has for thousands of years on your planet sought to perpetuate in generation after generation after generation, constantly be reinforced and reinforced from generation to generation to generation. Now is the timing that you have finally gotten to the point where the light is bright enough, where enough of you are seeking that light within yourselves, that you are adding that to the collective reality and giving each other better opportunities with your collective momentum to know that there is a level of reality, a level of yourselves, a level of your whole being that is more than capable of reconnecting with you, that you deserve to reconnect with and deserve to lighten your load, lighten up on yourselves, take the load off, drop the baggage, and get on your way through life in an easy and effortless, creative manner. And this is the time and the age on your planet where you're now realizing that, so congratulations. Now, we will share something with you to further strengthen the idea of the many different ways that you are starting to attract yourselves back to your own higher minds. So we will now share a little secret with all of you that we have shared with a few, and it is this. In these conversations that you are having with us, whether they be in this group structure or in one-to-one scenarios, doesn't matter. When you are speaking with us, you are actually speaking with your own higher mind. You are not speaking directly with us at all, ever. What we have done to aid and assist you by your invitation is we have wrapped the flavor of our personality like a shell around the core of your own higher self. And in every conversation we have with you, what we are doing thus then is giving you an excuse to talk to your own higher mind by tricking you into thinking you're talking to something else. Because that something else was one step removed from your own higher mind. In that context, wasn't as scary to the ego as thinking that you're actually addressing your own higher mind and all that that implies in terms of what you now have to take responsibility for. Therefore, the idea is that if you could find some vibration, some representation of a being that at least would represent that level but was still one step removed, then it wouldn't be quite as scary and you could deal with it at your own pace in a comfortable way. Well, the idea here is that yes, while obviously we are involved, the actual communication you are having with us is actually the communication with your own higher minds, but wrapped in our vibrational flavor in order to allow you to use us as a permission slip to give yourselves permission to actually communicate with your own higher minds in a relaxed way and get your assumptions and your beliefs and your definitions and your ego structure out of the way so that you will allow yourself that communication. So congratulations on being so clever as to invite us to help you to trick yourselves into speaking to your higher minds. Now, with this realization, then you can begin more and more every day in every way to relax the idea that there is fear attached to speaking and reconnecting to your own higher mind. The ego can now be taught that it will not die, it will not be annihilated just because you are going to make a conscious reconnection to your higher mind. It will be given the opportunity to just do its job in a relaxed, creative, and loving way.